Sundar Pichai stood on stage at Shoreline Amphitheatre on May 19th and said a word you don't usually hear at a developer conference: quadrillion. Not 480 trillion, which is what Google processed at I/O 2025. 3.2 quadrillion tokens per month, a 7 times jump in 1 year. That number is your real introduction to where this company operates. His exact words: "Never imagined I'd say quadrillion in an I/O keynote, but here we are." The infrastructure behind that number is what you and I need to talk about. Pichai has been running Google since 2015. This was his most aggressive I/O in years. Not aggressive in the "we have slides" sense. In the "we're shipping this next week" sense. Google committed $190 billion in capital expenditure for 2026, 6 times what they spent in 2022. When a company moves that kind of money, you're not watching a research lab, you're watching a land grab. Token processing tells the real infrastructure story. 9.7 trillion in 2024. 480 trillion at I/O 2025. 200 trillion now. Each bar here represents a year of engineering compounding. Here's the dashboard you actually care about. 900 million monthly active Gemini users. 2.5 billion using AI overviews. 1 billion using AI mode. Consumer numbers. The developer numbers tell a different story. Everything Google announced at I/O 2026 in one scroll. The sheer volume of releases is itself a signal about where $190 billion gets allocated. Scale is the condition, not the achievement. Every engineer knows the difference between traffic and retention. What you ship under that scale is where this keynote either lands or doesn't. Gemini 3.5 Flash launched in general availability May 19th. The pricing is the first thing you should look at. 1 million token input context, 64,000 token output limit. If you're working with long documents, large code bases, or extended reasoning chains, that's your real upgrade. The benchmark matrix is where things get interesting. Flash beats 3.1 Pro in every agentic category. But across the frontier, gaps between models are closing faster than vendors want you to notice. The pricing restructure is worth your attention. Flash input runs $1.50 per million tokens. Cached input, 15 cents. Google wants you building on Flash, not waiting for Pro. Under Dimas Hassabis at Google DeepMind, Gemini Omni changes the output modality entirely. One model: image, audio, video, and text in. Video out. Pichai's framing: create anything from any input. If you've been watching what OpenAI did with multimodal output, you know where this goes. Google's version ships to Gemini app users this week. Digital avatars, real-world grounded. 10-second clips from any input. The announcement that's gotten the least coverage but deserves your full attention: Gemini Spark, a 24/7 personal agent running on Google Cloud virtual machines, acting on your behalf while you sleep. This is the shift every AI lab has been building toward. Not a chatbot you query, an agent that monitors, decides, and executes continuously. The word assistant no longer applies. Spark connects to Gmail, Docs, and Google Workspace today. Come summer, MCP integration opens it to third-party tools. That last part is architecturally relevant to you as a developer. What Spark actually does out of the box: monitors finance, sports, and shopping across web and social in real time. Drafts responses inside Workspace. Runs without you initiating a single prompt. Google's new AI Ultra tier, $99.99 per month, includes Gemini Spark 5 times usage limits, full YouTube Premium. The prior tier ran $249.99. This repricing was not optional. The part that explains how you build at quadrillion token scale. Google's 8th generation TPUs. 2 chips, 1 for training, 1 for inference, both purpose-built for the post-transformer era. The TPU 8T delivers 121 exoflops peak per superpod, 600 chips sharing 2 petabytes of unified high-bandwidth memory. fabricated at TSMC's 2nm node. This isn't an incremental release. 4 specs to hold. 1, 2, 1 FP, 4 exoflops peak, 2 petabytes shared memory, 19.2 terabits bidirectional bandwidth, 2.7 times performance per dollar over Ironwood. The last number matters most to your billing. 134,000 TPUs connectable in a single data center fabric. The Virgo network. Training and serving layers separated by architecture. This is what purpose-built AI infrastructure looks like. The transformer architecture running across that fabric uses mixture of experts routing. Vaswani's 2017 attention mechanism hasn't fundamentally changed. What changed is the scale at which you can run it. The TPU-8i handles inference, designed by MediaTek. 9.6 times pod-level performance of Ironwood. 80% better performance per dollar. The inference chip is what your API latency budget runs against. On May 4th, 2 weeks before I.O., Google quietly shut down Project Mariner. 17 months. A browser agent that could navigate websites autonomously. The announcement said it voyaged to other Google products. That's corporate for. The experiment taught us what we needed, and we absorbed the useful parts into Jules. Jules is the coding agent that reached general availability this month. Jules is now generally available. It reads your code asynchronously, writes tests, fixes bugs, generates audio change logs, and shows its reasoning before executing. GitHub integration built in. Here's the part coverage berries. Google had 40 minutes of AI showcase. And when enterprise developers need something to actually ship, the market share tells a different story than the keynote does. Enterprise AI workload share, March 2026. Anthropic crossed 56%. OpenAI at 28%. Google at 11%. A company running 3.2 quadrillion tokens per month, serving 11% of enterprise AI workloads. SWE-bench verified, the closest thing we have to a real-world coding benchmark. Dario Amadei's Anthropic leads at 87.6%. Google's models are not in that conversation. Developers know it. Plot context window against real-world coding score. More context does not reliably predict better output. The correlation is weaker than the marketing implies. Gemini has the largest window and the lowest SWE-bench score here. The multi-axis picture is where Gemini's strengths and gaps both become visible. Multimodal, Google leads. Coding, Anthropic leads. These aren't close calls. They're architectural decisions that shipped years ago. Anthropic's enterprise share, 23.9% in January, 28.6% in February, 56.2% in March. That trajectory is what forced the $99 repricing. Google saw the same numbers you're looking at now. On GPQA Diamond, the benchmark that actually discriminates between frontier models, Claude Mythos Preview leads at 94.6%. Gemini 3.5 Flash at 94.1%. The gap is closing. The lead is not. Attention mechanisms reveal which tokens a model prioritizes in context. In a production incident prompt, bug, and a chan urgent, pull weight. Different training distributions produce measurably different attention patterns. That's the architecture gap you're actually buying. When a production incident hits at 2 a.m., you're not running a benchmark. You open the tool that hasn't surprised you badly before. That's a trust metric. And trust is not a keynote announcement. If you're migrating a workload to Gemini 3.5 Flash, the API surface is 3 lines. The client changes. The behavior you're betting production on changes with it. That's the part to audit before you commit. What the tokenizer sees when you send that call. Every token is a decision boundary. Gemini's 1 million token context is meaningless if your retrieval doesn't surface the right 1,000. The $190 billion breaks down across data centers, TPU fabrication, networking, and energy infrastructure. You're watching Google vertically integrate its entire AI supply chain in one fiscal year. Google I/O 2026 was the largest AI showcase in the company's history. The infrastructure numbers are real. The repricing is real. What you're watching is a company spending its way back to developer trust. That's not a criticism, that's the game. 3 things to track in the next 90 days. Gemini Spark MCP integration ships or slips. Gemini 3.5 Pro versus Claude Opus 4.7 on SWE-bench in June. Jules in production, does it actually cut time to first PR? If this framing was useful, subscribe. Next episode, we pull apart what Gemini Spark's architecture actually means for your agent stack. See you there.